Deep in the rainforests of Sri Lanka, past the ancient ruins and the tourist trails, sits a massive expanse of impenetrable jungle. I can't tell you exactly where this specific patch of forest is located. We have to keep it a secret because the shadows here are full of biological ghosts, living, breathing animals that remain completely unknown to human science. It is a bizarre, highly specialized ecosystem. You can find things here you've only read about in school books, like the carnivorous pitcher plant, a living trap that digests the insects unlucky enough to fall inside. Walking through these trees, you realize very quickly that this is a genuine lost world. The things we don't know about this jungle vastly outnumber the things we do. Look closely at this bulldozer tearing through a dirt path. Aggressive logging and heavy infrastructure development are currently carving up these untouched lands at an alarming rate. And then there's the black market. This table full of confiscated wildlife products shows the massive scale of the illegal pack trade. Right now, poachers are actively digging up the forest floor in Sri Lanka to capture undocumented tarantulas to sell online. This creates a brutal catch-22 for conservationists. You cannot legally compel a government to protect a habitat if the species living inside it don't officially exist on any scientific record. To the law, you're asking to protect nothing. That brings us to Dr. Ranil Nanayakara and his team of local biologists. Over the last 5 years, they have located 40 entirely new, unnamed animal species hiding in this exact forest. But the clock is ticking. If a poacher shovel or a corporate bulldozer wipes out one of those 40 undocumented species tomorrow, it goes extinct. It vanishes forever without leaving a single trace in human history. Finding an unknown animal out in the wild is really only about 1% of the battle. The other 99% is a grueling 6-step scientific gauntlet required to legally prove that the species exists. It starts with field exploration. You spend hours wading through leech-infested waters just to locate the animal. Then comes specimen collection. To do this ethically, researchers like Dr. Ranil carefully capture the animal alive and keep it safe in a lab until it dies of natural causes. Once that happens, we hit step 3, the morphological examination. This means placing the specimen under high-powered microscopes to meticulously map out microscopic anatomy, like the precise shape of its fangs and its reproductive organs. Then we look at historical archives, like this massive museum hall, for step 4, comparative analysis. Researchers literally have to fly across the globe to different museums just to prove their new specimen is truly different from every existing historical record. If the physical traits aren't enough, step 5 is DNA sequencing. Finally, you reach the ultimate bottleneck shown in these dense rows of archives. Step 6, writing and publishing a peer-reviewed research paper. Introducing a new species to the world isn't a romantic walk in the woods. It is an exhausting, highly technical, bureaucratic war. And it's an incredibly expensive war. Just completing that final step, publishing your findings in a high-impact journal like Nature or Science, can cost upwards of $4,000. This is where everything ground to a halt for Dr. Ranil. Following the COVID pandemic, the funding for his nonprofit organization completely evaporated. The money simply ran out. Because of that missing money, all 40 of those newly discovered species are currently sitting in scientific limbo. They are known to the researchers, but completely invisible to the law. This organization manages a vast ecological scope. In the past, they've run critical conservation projects for massive mammals, from sloth bears and dugongs to sperm whales. Without the financial backing to cross that final publishing finish line, years of dangerous, painstaking fieldwork are rendered completely useless, leaving these new animals totally vulnerable to the bulldozers. Now, you might be wondering, why waste thousands of dollars on microscopes, museum flights, and journal fees? Why not just use that money to build a giant fence around the jungle? Because the research paper actually is the fence. Once a species is scientifically documented, it triggers a chain reaction. That single paper attracts biologists from around the world. Their arrival sparks research tourism, which brings in international NGO funding, which ultimately puts legal pressure on the government to declare the entire habitat a national reserve. Taxonomy acts as the primary legal mechanism for environmental survival, moving beyond simple academic observation to create tangible defenses for these habitats. The good news is, we don't have to wait for the slow, broken system of traditional scientific grants to catch up. We can bypass it entirely through direct crowdfunding. To prove this works, I donated the exact amount of money needed to push one specific, newly discovered tarantula species through all 6 steps of that bureaucratic gauntlet. As a result, that spider is now officially documented, legally recognized, and formally named Poeciliaria rathii. There are still 40 species left sitting in limbo. If you have the means, a $5,000 donation covers the entire documentation process for a full animal. And as the ultimate perk, Dr. Raniel will give you the right to officially name the species you save. This contribution secures a permanent legal shield for a fragile piece of our planet, extending the legacy of these animals far beyond a simple entry in a science book.